Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the division of the conservative Republican coalition, the recent elections that we had in New York City, Virginia, and New Jersey, and the outcomes that were quite honestly unexpected, as well as the Christian persecution going on in Nigeria. All that and more coming up today on The Ocean Rosso Show. We have this radical shift now, and it's threatening to destroy the Republican coalition at a time in which we need to be unified now more than ever. And this can really, the blame can really be pinned on a young man by the name of Nick Fuentes, who has caused quite a stir, quite a disruption in the Republican Party, specifically with his movement, the Groypers. He has been praising Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. He, for some bizarre reason, opposes racial minorities. I want to make my position on this issue very clear. I do not believe that we should silence people. I do not believe that we should deplatform people because of certain views. People like Nick Fuentes have a First Amendment right to speak their mind. Everybody in America has a First Amendment right to speak their mind. And that is not something we should take away as a society. Yes, you do not have a First Amendment right to violence. Yes, you do not have a First Amendment right to threatening or slandering. Yes, there are some lines that have to be drawn. But as of right now, I am not in favor of silencing Nick Fuentes and his movement. Because I am constitutional. I am pro the First Amendment. So I want to look at not why we should silence him like many are, but why we should not allow him to control the conservative movement. Because this is something that he is threatening to do. Now, if you're not involved in politics, even if you are involved in politics moderately, you've probably never heard of the name Nick Fuentes. He is a recently new character in the conservative movement, someone who wasn't paid much attention when he first began and is now expanded his views and his insight largely into the conservative realm. He currently has 1 million followers on X. And he has said some pretty bizarre, downright despicable things. And I believe that Nick Fuentes ultimately is the nail in the coffin right now for the unified right. So don't take my word for his disgusting, violent rhetoric. Take his own word. This is first and foremost him praising Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. We're actually going to, since this is a family-friendly show, and I do not want young people to be negatively influenced by someone like this. I don't even watch 90% of what he does. Because I am a follower of Christ, a Christian, and I don't believe that we should be subjecting ourselves to speech like this. So I'm just going to play a clip of him talking about Joseph Stalin. This is from the Tucker Carlson show. Take a look.
So it was like mid-December, late December. It's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was an admirer. But we don't need to go into that. I guess.
Well, that's okay. Let's get back. We'll circle back to that.
It was weird because the reason I mentioned that, it was almost like because I woke up that day and I was like, oh, it's December 18th, and I was just like very acutely aware of like today's like a strange day. This is the day that the attempt happened,
and that's all you really need to see. We also have a post on X, as you can see here, that says Team Hitler. I'm not going to expand on that anymore. I'm not going to give Nick Fuentes a platform on my show. I'm not going to play any more of what he says because he doesn't deserve it. Charlie Kirk did not believe that Nick Fuentes should be a right-wing thought leader. In fact, this is what Charlie Kirk said about the Groyper movement and specifically really about Nick Fuentes when he had a caller on his show. Take a look.
Thank you so much for being a member. What's on your mind?
Hi, Charlie. As a TPUSA chapter founder and president, I've seen firsthand how the tide is turning among young conservatives. I say, if you truly believe in open debate in the marketplace of ideas, will you ever be willing to debate Nick Fuentes, or will you wait until his movement forces you to adopt his talking points, as we've seen already?
You know, it's funny. I personally do not give a platform to bad faith actors. And I had a whole open about this. And by the way, a really important thing is not to lie and to not bear false testimony. It's fine. I'll answer your question. You know, you said, oh, you know, I want to have a question about Turning Point events. And you obviously lied about your question. Doesn't surprise me because you have deceit. But you know what? Honestly, I'm asked that question all the time. I don't platform trolls. And I don't platform and I don't discuss people or I don't debate with people that are not good faith actors. And
you debate Maoists and people who champion.
They can keep on yelling at how successful we are and our big events and well over 1,000 employees. But there's a lot of jealousy out there. We build, they complain. We succeed, we win.
Now, I'm not going to play the clips of Nick Fuentes speaking about Charlie Kirk because he does use disgusting language. He called Charlie not Christ-like. He really made it dubious as to whether Charlie Kirk was a Christian or not. And I think that that is disgusting. I say to Nick Fuentes, how dare you? I've had the opportunity to meet Charlie Kirk many times, speak to him. I sat pretty much front row when he had his sermon on the 4th of July. Charlie Kirk is a leader, still is impacting the next generation when it comes to Christian faith. We should not take the religious, moral, political views that Nick Fuentes holds and use them as mainstream Republican ideals. Because we cannot uplift someone like Nick Fuentes. We should not be handing radicals the mic. You know, this is something I think we can learn from the Democratic Party, right? You see, the Democratic Party, they were very moderate in the early 1900s, extremely moderate. As they start to progress, they're giving the radicals the microphone more and more. So much so that New York City just elected a Democratic socialist to be its mayor. More on that later. But they are handing the radicals the microphone, the megaphone, and the platform. We as conservatives, as principled Christian conservatives, as Judeo-Christian conservatives, we cannot hand the microphone to people like Nick Fuentes. We cannot hand the microphone to people who are destroying what we have fought for so long. No, this is our movement. This is our party. This is our nation. We stand for the Constitution, for faith, for family, for freedom, for everything that Charlie Kirk died for. So I will say that while I disagree, extremely disagree, with the violent rhetoric that Nick Fuentes is spewing, with the extremist ideas that he is promoting, I will not silence him. I will ask him to leave the conservative movement because he is not welcome. We cannot hand our leadership to Nick Fuentes. New York Times just released an opinion article, with the title, Nick Fuentes was Charlie Kirk's bitter enemy. Now he is becoming his successor. We cannot allow this to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to stand for reason, to stand for logic, to stand for faith, for freedom, for Charlie. We cannot hand the microphone to radicals, because we will get the inversion, the perversion of what the Democrats have. You know, I think it really is true that Nick Fuentes is a reaction. This Groyper movement is a reaction to the leftist radicals. Because the leftist radicals say, you know, white men don't matter. They're all racist. They're all misogynist. We can't let them be in our society. We have to promote based on race and gender and all this nonsense. We can't have a merit-based society. We have to elevate because of a minority. And so we had a reaction to that. But the reaction is just as radical. So we must, as a party, come together because we have this issue. You know, we just had an election in Virginia and New Jersey and New York City. And what happened? Well, the Democrats won. We're actually going to take a look at that right now. Mamdani won in New York City. Spamburger and Jones won in Virginia. And Sherrill won in New Jersey. Right now, I think the only race that is looking on the upside for Republicans would be the Minneapolis mayoral race. Since I'm filming this a few days early, just because of how busy my schedule is, we currently do not know the final results of that race just yet with Omar Fateh. Currently, it is the incumbent that is winning, but they do use ranked choice voting, so that can change. Now back to the main point. When we allow radicals to infiltrate the party, to take over a party, and to manipulate it, we get people like Zohran Mamdani, like Omar Fateh, waving the Somali flag, pledging allegiance to Somalia and not to America. So, in conclusion, we cannot allow radicals to overtake the party, because we will get the inversion, the perversion of democratic socialism. And it is just as radical. So I ask every single one of you to stand up for faith, for family, for freedom, for Christ, for the Constitution, for our nation. Yes, we will allow people to speak their minds freely. That is an ideal that was upheld by the founding fathers. Yes, I will allow people to go around and speak their mind. But if you try to overtake our party, the Republican conservative movement, no. We will not allow that. So we are divided at a time when we cannot be divided. It is crucial that we stay united now, more than ever, as I have previously said, because Democrats are winning elections left and right. And if there's one memorable quote, I saw this tweet on X. I don't know who said it, but I agree with it. They did it. They've gone and done it. The Democrats won. And I think that this is really a wake-up call for conservatives. Because if you can run someone like Zohran Mamdani in New York City, who believes in a network of city-owned grocery stores that are going to buy and sell at wholesale prices, who believe in free bus fares, and that we don't need more police officers. No, we need to create a whole other branch of government, a whole division to carry out his policies to make sure that the city is more safe. Instead of hiring more police officers, there's a problem. And we need to confront this head on. Because right now we're so divided amongst ourselves. We have this battle going on inside the conservative movement. We're ignoring who the true enemy is. The Democratic Party. And they are going out and winning elections. You know, I said at the end of 2024, after the election, after President Trump won, after we had a sweeping victory across all 7 swing states, including my home state of Arizona, I said, we cannot allow this movement to die. Every time I go out and speak, we fall asleep after major elections. We don't care. Yes, so many poured their hard-earned time, their hard-earned money and their time into this election. We had people from Turning Point Action going out. We had people like Scott Pressler going out and rallying the base, rallying the voters in New Jersey and Virginia. But we didn't win. And why is that? It's because we can't stay united. It's because these states are liberal. Because we haven't gone in and educated people that these policies will not work. They will fail at the end of the day. The policies of Zohran Mamdani will only drive away economic freedom. They will drive away business in New York City. And ultimately, they will drive away the millionaire and billionaire class who can move somewhere else. I think that there are some people on the right who will say, this serves as a sign. Good, good for them. Good for New York City. Democracy is the idea that the people get what they want and they deserve to get it good and hard. But we're not a democracy. We're a republic. We are not a democratic socialist state. We are the United States of America that stand for constitutional republic principles. We cannot have someone going around promising free everything in New York City and not expect for there to be consequences. Mamdani is the first Democratic Socialist mayor of New York. Take a look at what he had to say on his election night victory.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point.
So I don't hear any mention of Americans. That is probably because the foreign-born population won Mamdani his victory. I am all for legal, logical immigration. My family is descended from immigrants. My mom's side, they came from the Netherlands. They came over and early on from the Netherlands. We had some family that came later on in the 50s, but a lot of them came early on, 16, 17, 1800s. On my dad's side, from Mexico. But they all came legally and with a purpose. And when they came, they didn't bring their radical agendas from their home countries with them. They came with a sense of purpose, knowing that they wanted to be American more than anything else. They wanted to achieve the American dream. They wanted to build up this nation. They wanted to contribute to society. And they did. They truly did. Yet today we have people coming in that just want to bring their radical agendas from their home countries with them. We see this in Minnesota. Omar Fateh, his radical Somalia, pro-Somali group that is really trying to overtake an entire state. We see this in New York City with Zohran Mamdani's victory speech mentioning every single minority except for Americans, who are increasingly becoming the minority in New York City. Yes, I love to see cultures come together and create something new. But when we are forced to bow the knee, to bend the knee to one culture in order to appease them, it becomes an impossibility to keep and retain the principles that America was founded on. Because we have different societies with different moral basis for their laws and order and norms and standards. It's like if in America, our laws and our norms are based on Judeo-Christian principles. Because that's what the founders believed in. All 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Christian. They were either Presbyterian or Catholic or Baptist or Episcopalian or Quaker, but they were all Christian. And we seem to have forgotten that. Yes, I'm okay with other people with other ideas coming into our nation. But when you force your beliefs upon America, and we are expected to bow the knee, to bend the knee, to accommodate your beliefs, there's a problem. Zoran Mamdani is the end point of this movement. In fact, I can say even more, he is really just the beginning of what is about to happen. I believed that there was hope. You know, I know New York City, there's a lot of great conservatives I know there. There's a lot of liberals that are there. New York City was originally a pretty conservative, centered city. You know, we all, as America as a whole, was more conservative leaning. And now we have had this pendulum shift, and I expected it to come back, that Zoran Mamdani would get rejected because his beliefs were too radical. But I've been proven wrong. Yes, I still have hope for places like New York City, Virginia, New Jersey, and Minnesota. Yes, we should hold out hope. We are commanded to do that. That is a biblical principle. But we can't just sit around twiddling our thumbs, hoping for something to happen. We can't just say, well, that's a future me problem, and that's somebody else's job to go knock doors, change minds, and enlighten the next generation of freedom fighters. It starts with every single one of you watching today. Mamdani will raise taxes, and there will be a mass exodus. Mamdani will take away whole sectors of business in New York City, and businesses will be forced to close and people will lose jobs. This may or may not happen, because thank goodness there are still some checks and balances for power. So I am honestly quite interested to see what the future has for New York City. Because I think Mamdani is really going to be pushed on both sides by his democratic socialist radicals and the conservative movement. Because for one, we have the conservative movement saying Mamdani is too radical. We cannot have him in New York City as mayor. And on the other side, we have the socialists saying, well, Mamdani might not be radical enough. You know, we need someone stronger, someone who is really going to bring about these socialist principles. So it'll be quite interesting to see what happens. But for someone who says that he does not really like capitalism, let's take a look at that. Mamdani on capitalism.
So when people say democratic socialist, right? And I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it.
So I just have one question. How are we expecting him to guide the largest city in America, the most capitalist, business-oriented city in all of America, a city that was built on capitalism? How are we expecting someone like Zoran Mamdani to do this? If anything, this should serve as a wake-up call for conservatives. We have yet again fallen asleep. We have yet again ignored reality. When Donald Trump leaves the movement, as he will be forced to, he cannot run for president again. What will happen to the conservative MAGA, America First movement? I honestly do not know. We have a splintering in the movement with extreme radicals. And we are dealing with, just outside the castle gate, a radical democratic socialist bandwagon that is picking up many Americans because they want something more. They hope for something. Economic recovery in uncertain times such as this. So I pray and hope that we have a strong leader like J.D. Vance who will be able to come in, rally the base, and ensure that we do not have a repeat of the 2025 mayoral election in New York City. But it wasn't just this election that caught the attention of many in the media. Jay Jones, the candidate for Virginia Attorney General, was elected in Virginia. Keep in mind that this is someone who called for the murder, the killing of his opponent's children. This is someone who compared his opponent to Hitler and other dictators. And he won. He won. 20, 30 years ago, if this had happened and it was on either side, quite honestly, if it was a Republican or Democrat, independent, a moderate, a radical, what would the reaction have been? How can I vote for someone like this? How can I support someone with these principles who is calling for the killing of innocent human beings, children? How can I not just vote for him, let alone endorse him? We had Cory Booker, Abigail Spamburger, who won the governorship of Virginia, who openly endorsed and supported Jay Jones, even after these extremely disgusting statements were exposed. She won. So how are we to combat this? Some may say, well, these states are just liberal. Well, these states are just radical. Really? Donald Trump won Virginia in 2024. Virginia has had a Republican governor for quite a while now. It's not like Virginia has always been just this radical leftist state. We have seen some semblance of hope for Virginia. And yet they have elected Jay Jones. I think this is another wake-up call. Every single race is a wake-up call. Spamburger, Sherrill, all of these races. Even if Omar Fateh doesn't win, the fact that he got this far should be a wake-up call for Americans, not just conservatives, for Americans. We are electing people who are democratic socialists, who put Somalia over America, and who openly have admitted to other people that they want their opponents' children to be killed. I think that we are facing a problem in America. And that problem is socialism, Marxism, and communism. So we need to combat it with every ounce of energy that we have left. Because it is up to us to save this nation. It really is. I just have one question real quick for all of you. And I'd like you guys to comment down below. Please give me your opinion. Why is it that we have so much infighting when we only have like 13 to 14 more months guaranteed of a unified federal government? I want to get your opinions on this. We had this during Trump's first administration with the Russia, and infighting in the Republican Party, and we seem to have forgotten on Truth Social how that ends. Here's the comment that he made. How that turns out for America. So as you can see, we are at it yet again with the splintering of the party, with the fact that we're ignoring people like Mamdani and Spamburger and Fateh. So what are your opinions, and how do we fix this? How do we reunite the Republican Party? So I want to turn to more sobering news. We have heard a lot about Nigeria. And President Trump has really threatened Nigeria. He's really just calling for Nigeria to stop allowing the persecution of Christians. I think that Africa as a whole is really dangerous for anyone if you're Christian. It stands in stark contrast to America. Mamdani was, the other day, I talked about in our first episode about Mamdani and his comment on 9/11 about his aunt. My aunt was traumatized. She couldn't wear her hijab in the subway. She was scared she'd get a reply or response. Look at other countries. If anything, when an attack in America happens, we tend to unite. We accept people. Look at these other nations. It's been estimated that between 30 to 50,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria. Since 2015, for some reason, we have sent them $8 billion, billion with a B, $8 billion in aid to Nigeria, a nation that is persecuting upwards of 50,000 Christians over the past decade. That's possibly more. We don't know that number. It's not like they're sitting there and count check mark for every single person they killed. No, this is extremist Islamic terrorism. And it really shakes me to my core. Because as a Christian, I believe that we should go out and bring others to Christ. But also as a Christian, we shouldn't inflict harm on other people just because they have a differing view. Yet radical Islamic principles believe that this is okay. And the Nigerian government is just sitting around and watching it happen. And the more we just let it happen, the more we can expect to see stuff like this spread. Because it won't just be contained to one nation in Africa that half the population can have ever heard about and 0.1% can identify on a map. It will spread to more and more nations. So we need to pray for Nigeria. We need to pray for the persecuted church, regardless of your religion or religious beliefs. Keep in mind that everybody has the ability to express their opinions, and we have the freedom of religion in America, and be grateful for that. That we can go to church, that we can go to worship. Be grateful. Because as we can see, there are people who have it much worse, and we should keep them in our thoughts and prayers every single day. I want to mention really quick on Monday some news that kind of has gotten suppressed. Two really important pieces of news that have kind of gotten a little less coverage than they really have. In fact, when I told some friends just yesterday about Dick Cheney dying, former vice president, they said, "What? Who? How? Where? When? Why?" We really haven't heard much about former Vice President Cheney's passing away. I think it's really gotten suppressed because of all these, we have all this election results pouring in just right now, and the persecution of Nigerian Christians. But yes, Dick Cheney has just passed away. I know that the conservative MAGA movement has really, over the course of time, and we really control the conservative party. I think MAGA makes up the majority of the party by now, just Trump supporters in general. And we really, as a movement, have grown to dislike people like Cheney, like Nixon, for example, like the Bushes. And yes, there were some things that they did wrong. Everybody, as president, everybody makes mistakes. And yes, there were some more radical things that have been said. There was a lot of disdain for Trump coming from the Cheney family. And I think that when the dust settles, when everything is all said and done, we need to respect and honor people who took the time to step up and serve our nation. Not just as veterans and people that fight for our nation. I love and respect our veterans. But also people who serve politically, because they are going into a lion's den and fighting for their principles. So R.I.P. Dick Cheney. Rest in peace. Your family, his family is in our thoughts and prayers. So yeah, we also have shocking news. Shocking, absolutely shocking. Nancy Pelosi will not be seeking re-election to Congress. When I first heard this, I said, wow, it's been a century. Oh my goodness. You know, Nancy Pelosi has been in office for more than I don't even know how long she's been in. That's how long she's been in office. I don't have a concrete answer. Like a few decades? You know, we hear that our founders wanted people to serve short terms. You know, everybody wants term limits. Everybody calls for term limits now. I personally don't really agree with term limits. I think that they end up limiting people's opinion, people's right to vote on who they want to be elected. But good. I think that she has definitely made an impact. I won't say whether that's a positive or negative impact. I think you can judge for yourself. I will be interested to see who steps up to replace her. Snap cuts have just become official. And she likes to blame it on Trump. A lot of the Democrats are blaming it on Trump. I would like to play, specifically from Arizona, we see a lot of Democrats blaming this on President Trump. Even people I know that are conservative are blaming this on Trump for some reason. So I want to take a look. This is Congressman Eli Crane, a phenomenal congressman from Arizona, posted this the other day. This is a video of the Democratic senators from Arizona, Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego. This is how they voted to reopen the government. Take a look.
Senator, since the shutdown began now 21 days ago, there have been 11 votes on the GOP measure to reopen the government, and you have voted no all 11 times.
Mr. Gallego, no.
Mr. Gallego, no.
Gallego, no. Mr. Gallego, no. Mr. Gallego, no.
Mr. Gallego, no.
Gallego, no.
Mr. Gallego, no.
Gallego, no.
Gallego, no. Gallego, no.
How are you explaining that to federal workers, including those in your state who aren't getting paid?
Well, to be honest, I'm telling you, this does suck.
But how long are you prepared to stick out this fight? Past November 1st? Past Thanksgiving?
I rule any tie tempo out right now.
Democrats have argued that the norms of our government should be that you negotiate policy outside of a government shutdown.
You're talking about norms in the time of Donald Trump? It's all out the window, Casey.
Are you saying that's okay? Are you saying that's okay if they do that?
I mean, the Republicans have done this quite a while, yes. Yeah,
What did you say about it when they did it?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona joins me now.
Mr. Kelly, no. Mr. Kelly, no.
You're a moderate Democrat. Are you going to vote with Republicans to reopen the government?
Absolutely. Nobody wants to see the government shut down. Well, let me tell you a quick story.
Mr. Kelly, no. Kelly, no.
Chuck Schumer said this week, quote, every day gets better for Democrats the longer this shutdown goes on.
This is about real people. I was on the phone with a woman from Phoenix.
But how is every day
week.
getting better, as Chuck Schumer said?
I don't think this is better for anybody.
Kelly, no. Kelly, no.
You've got federal workers going to food banks. How long can you let this go when you see these things happening, when you see SNAP payments going away for nearly 1 million Arizonans?
We don't want to shut down. But let me tell you about an Arizonan. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Brent.
Kelly, no. Kelly, no.
Senator, you close the government down because you want $1.5 trillion for all these different things that Schumer wants. It's obvious to everyone, although, maybe you can convince the public that it's the Republicans, but it's not.
So as you can see, we need 60 votes to continue this, to stop the government shutdown. Rrepublicans only have like 50-ish votes on a good day in the Senate. We're not the most united party. We have a few squishes and rhinos here and there. So every vote matters. And we only have half of the control, like 50 plus 1 to 3-ish, depending on the day, like I said. So this does fall on the Democrats. It really, truly does. And we need to make that apparent. We cannot allow them to continue to say, it's Trump's fault, it's the Republicans' fault, it's the conservatives' fault, because it's not. I don't want the government to shut down any more than you do. So stop blaming it on the Republicans. Take the blame. Move forward. Reopen the government. For goodness sakes, for crying out loud, just reopen the government. But I think now we will really get to see churches and charities step in. This is what the Founding Fathers envisioned. They didn't want the government just to be giving out SNAP benefits every single day to millions of Americans and non-Americans. Illegal immigrants are benefiting from SNAP. Refugees benefiting from SNAP. People who are able-bodied are benefiting from SNAP. Now listen, I'm okay with people who actually need it. Like if you came here as a refugee and you cannot get a job, you need SNAP. That is okay. If you came here as an immigrant family and you're working as hard as you can, but you just can't make ends meet and you really need to use food stamps, that's okay, but there has to be a cutoff. We can't just have millions and millions of mass migration coming into America and expecting to get free benefits from the government. So we need to give it to people who actually need it. And I think that this is really going to be a problem for the Democrats in 2026 and 2028. Yes, we have elected Zoran Mamdani and Spamburger and all the rest, the crew. But there is no front runner for president on the Democrat side. And this is via CNN. Every single election up until this point, there was always a front runner, a clear front runner. In 2000 and 2004 and 2008 and 12 and 16 and 20 and 24. There is no front runner. There is no one who is leading the coalition. Who's going to be like Bernie? Bernie Sanders, who's like 200 years old. Nancy Pelosi just is dropping out. She's not running anymore. I think AOC, quite frankly, is far too radical. Far too radical. And I don't think that most of America is ready to accept democratic socialism. So there is really no front runner right now for the next Democratic nominee for president. So, jump right in. It's open right now. And it'll be interesting to see who decides to run, ultimately. But if there's anything that we've learned today, I think that there's this new America that we're facing. We have an old America and a new America, an old constitution and a new constitution, an old system of beliefs and a new system of beliefs. And we're at a war right now, economically, politically, spiritually. And it's time to pick a side, to pick up, the megaphone, the microphone, and start fighting for freedom, for conservative principles. But don't hand the mic to radicals. Don't dismiss what you can do and say a radical can do it just as good as me. Don't stop fighting for the rights of the unborn. Don't stop fighting for young women who have to compete with men. Don't stop fighting against democratic socialism, an idea that has failed time and time again. Don't stop. Don't stop educating. Don't stop enlightening. Don't stop reinvigorating the apathetic. Because you have a voice just as much as I do. And it's time for you, as much as it is for me, to pick up the microphone and say no. No to the radicals on the right Republican side of the aisle. No to the Groypers. No to the socialists. No to failed policies. And ultimately, no to this new radical America that is threatening to destroy the very basis of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to the Ocean Rosso Show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, regardless of whether you like the show or not, please comment down below your opinions, any facts, anything you'd like to comment about the show. I always make sure to read them. So thank you all for your opinion and your honest information. I hope that you have a blessed rest of your week. God bless you all, and may God bless America.